My name is Alyssa, and I was 32 when I realized just how much a single pair of shoes could change a life. I lived with my two sons, Daniel and Micah, in a cramped one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The heater barely worked in winter. We had one space heater that we moved from room to room, like a treasure. I worked as a waitress at a 24-hour diner, pulling double shifts almost every day. It wasn't the kind of job you dream about. My feet ached constantly. My hands smelled like grease. The customers ranged from sweet to cruel, and the tips barely covered groceries. But it was a job, and when you're a mother raising two kids alone, you take what you can get. Their father left when Micah was only 9 months old. One morning, he said he was going out for milk. He never came back. No note. No explanation. Just silence. I didn't have time to cry. I didn't have space to fall apart. I had diapers to buy, rent to pay, and 2 little boys who needed me to be strong. So, I worked. I worked when I had a fever. I worked with blisters on my feet. I worked when I wanted to scream. Micah was 7 the winter everything changed. I noticed him walking funny. When I checked his shoes, my heart broke. His toes were curled inward. The soles were thin. He hadn't said anything. He was used to not asking. That night, I counted every coin in the cookie jar where we kept change. I had $13.40. I checked the sales online. A pair of boys' sneakers at the discount store was $19.99. The next day, I picked him up from school and took him to the store anyway. He didn't even ask for the shoes. He just looked at them quietly, then looked at me. He knew. I stared at the box for a long time, my stomach in knots. Then I put it back on the shelf. Micah didn't complain. He just said, "It's okay, Mama. Mine still kinda fit." But I saw the pain in his eyes. That night at work, I broke down in the diner kitchen. I sat on a crate of onions and cried until I couldn't feel my face. My manager walked in, saw me, and walked out without a word. I thought I was about to be fired. I didn't even care. I had nothing left in me. The next morning, something strange happened. I opened the front door, and there on our worn-out doormat was a shoebox. New. Untouched. Inside were a pair of brand-new sneakers, exactly Micah's size. No note. No receipt. Just shoes. I sat on the floor and cried so hard it scared Daniel. I wasn't crying because we had shoes. I was crying because someone saw us. Someone noticed. Someone cared. In the days that followed, more small gifts appeared. A grocery bag with cereal, milk, and fresh fruit. A winter jacket with Daniel's name written on a sticky note inside. A card that simply read, "You are not invisible. Keep going." I had no idea who was behind it. I asked the neighbors. They all shook their heads. One woman smiled and said, "Maybe you've got an angel." A week later, my manager at the diner called me into his office. I thought I was being let go. Instead, he handed me a letter. "You're getting a raise," he said. "And we'd like you to train for assistant shift manager." I stood there, stunned. I hadn't asked for any of this. But it was happening. Things began to shift. I started saving small amounts. I bought Micah a real winter coat for the first time in years. I applied for a night class in bookkeeping at the local college. My days were still long and my feet still hurt, But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were walking towards something, not just running from disaster. One morning, while folding laundry, Micah asked, "Mama, do you think people are good?" I paused. Then I said, "Some people are good. And some people choose to be good even when life isn't." We still never found out who left the shoes. Maybe it was someone from the diner. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe it was a stranger who saw something they couldn't ignore. But it didn't matter. That one act of kindness had started a chain reaction. One pair of shoes. One small gesture. And everything changed. A year later, on Micah's 8th birthday, I surprised him. We went to the same store where I once put back those sneakers. This time, he didn't look at the price tags. He just picked the ones with lightning bolts on the sides and said, "These are fast." And then I bought 10 more pairs. That evening, Daniel, Micah, and I drove around town. We left the shoes on porches, tucked under benches, outside bus stops. No notes. No names. Just kindness. Micah asked, "Mama, what if nobody knows they're from us?" I smiled and said, "That's the point. Because someone out there was holding a shoebox, wondering if life was ever going to be kind again. And I wanted them to know, yes, it can be." Now every year we do the same. 10 pairs. 10 stories waiting to change. I still work. I still get tired. But we're okay now. We have enough. And every time I see someone struggling, I remember, it doesn't take much to make a difference. Sometimes, it starts with just a pair of shoes.